Good morning friends and welcome to the pre-market view. We've seen carnage across the global markets. US markets were down about 1.5 to 2%. Same was the case with European markets, and they were also down anywhere from about 1.5 to almost 2.5%. And what is leading to this carnage is the outcome from the Italian elections, and there is a possibility that there could be a coalition government, and one section of that coalition is against the austerity drive. So that could lead to some amount of uncertainty over Eurozone, and on the back of that we've seen the Italian bond yields shooting up to about 4%, and also we've seen huge movement in the currencies wherein the euro has come down to almost about 1.31, and the same has been the case with the yen, which is actually weakened against the dollar. And when we look at the Asian markets, most of them are down. Japan is down almost about 1.8%, and rest of the Asian markets are down up to about 0.5%. In terms of flows, friends, FIs were net buyers in the cash market to the tune of 248 crore. The domestic institutions were sellers to the tune of about 168 crore, and FIs were sellers in the index futures to the tune of about 438 crore. Our markets also had a dull session yesterday, and they were down almost about 25 to 30 points. However, there was a carnage across the mid-cap stocks due to the margin calls and the selling by some of the financiers to the companies where the promoter funding was involved. We shall talk about that at a later stage. But right now, let me call Sadhana to take us through important F&O cues, data and strategies that we can have in the F&O markets.
Good morning friends, let's have a view on derivatives. Yesterday, markets have started on positive note. After that, selling pressure continued on the bourses amid domestic negative market sentiments. However, breadth of the market was weak due to events such as futures February series futures and options expiry and union budget, which is lined up on this Thursday. And we have seen around 10 lakh shares were added in open interest with significant increase in the cost of carry, indicating long accumulations has been taken place and at lower levels in yesterday's trade. On the options front, if we talk about options activity, in call strike side 5,900 seen a good number of activity, whereas 6,000 March series has seen good number of activity, and on put side 5,700 March series has seen a good number of activity. Talk about implied volatility, it is shot up by 25% to 35%, indicating market would remain volatile and uncertain, and we might see intraday whipsaws ahead of railway budget is lined up today. For intraday perspective, one can go long on DLF with a stop loss of 268.25, and one can go short on Bharti Airtel with a stop loss of 311.90. Thank you.
Here are the important news and events that we are tracking today. First of all, S&P has come out with a positive statement for both the banking system as well as the GDP forecast for FY15. Banking, they are saying that there is going to be some improvement because of the lower interest rates and better agricultural output. And GDP growth, they're looking at a growth of about 6.4% next year. In another development, RBI is likely to infuse about 10,000 crore through OMO as the liquidity situation would dry up in the month of March due to the last tranche of the corporate advance tax. In an important development about the GST rollout, the Odisha state minister, who is part of the empowered group of state ministers, has indicated that there is some amount of consensus on the model law for implementation of GST. One will have to watch and see in the budget what really FM has to say about GST rollout, because this is an important legislation from a market standpoint. And in another development, there have not been any takers for the new spectrum auction in the GSM bandwidth for both 900 and 1800 megahertz spectrum. And in CDMA only Systema Sham was the contender. This is a bit relief for the existing players like Bharti and Idea, so one can expect some positive move in these stocks in today's market. We've seen carnage across mid-cap stocks in yesterday's trade, wherein core projects was down almost 62%, ABG Shipyard 20%, Welspun Corporation 20%, Orbit 12%, so on and so forth. The primary trigger for this move seems to be the offloading by the financiers because of the margin calls, and that led to some kind of a spiraling effect across certain stocks. though we did see some recovery in stocks like Eros Media towards the end, but the overall sentiment has got affected because of this development. Railway budget is going to be announced today, though it's not that major an event from a stock market perspective. The market will watch out for any increase in the freight rates for goods, also the broad plan for the dedicated freight corridor, and if there are going to be any increase in the passenger fares, because we've already seen one round of passenger fare hikes, but to take care of the cost, if at all there is going to be a move to increase the passenger fare in this budget, is something that the market will watch out for. And some of the stocks which could remain in action are Texmaco, Kalindi Rail, Titagarh Wagons and Kernix Micro, who are supplying either equipments or wagons to the railways. But remember friends, that over the last fortnight we've seen that some of these stocks have actually corrected, and the liquidity for some of these stocks is not good, so one should not really try to take a big punt in any of the stocks for the budget as such. SBI has fixed a price of about 2312 for the preferential allotment to the Government of India, where they are looking at pumping in about 3004 crore, which is positive for State Bank of India. And Cain India has begun the drilling for its exploration in Rajasthan, wherein the output is expected to be about 2,15,000 barrels per day by March 2014. So one can go long on Cain with a stop loss of 302 and a target of about 317 to about 323. Cadila has got an approval for one of its products called ranitidine injections in the US market, so one can go long on Cadila with a stop loss of 760 and a target of about 798 to about 814. And Hero MotoCorp, some negative news, as the workers have actually decided to go on a hunger strike for their wage increase. So one can short Hero Honda with a stop loss of 1740 and a target of about 1654 to about 1620. That's it from all of us friends. Have a nice trading session and see you tomorrow at the same time.